of enlightening lectures in loving memory of Dr. Himangsu Sarmah, former HOD of the Department of History, Morigao College. Welcoming each participant to today's session who have joined us. We have the dignitaries, Dr. Leela Kanta Borthakur, Principal of Morigao College, Dr. Nilofer Jasmine, Assistant Professor, Department of Anthropology, Morigao College, Dr. Sharada Shi Chaudhary, Assistant Professor, Department of English of Morigao College. Uh, we are honored to have with us as a speaker today, distinguished Professor Amrita Das, Department of History, Guwahati University, Assam. We welcome ma'am to today's program, and we are extremely thankful to her for accepting our invitation. Joining us today, we have students, faculty members, non-teaching staff of the college, as well as participants from different institutions. We welcome each one of you. Uh, the president of the governing body of Morigao College, Professor Jogan Kolita sir, couldn't join us today because of his prior commitments elsewhere, but then he has sent us his best wishes. We'll now move forward, and I would now request Dr. Leela Kanta Borthakur, Principal Sir of Morigao College, to deliver the welcome note. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much. Respected speaker, Professor Paramita Das, known historian of Northeast tourism. My senior colleague, former IPSC coordinator, Dr. Jasmine, head of the Department of History, Deepak Kolita, Assistant Professor, Department of English, Sarmah Chaudhary, other department of faculty members of the department history, my respected participant, teacher participant, and my dear student. I am very much thankful to the Department of History that they are organizing continuously this lecture series in a regular basis, and it proves that every faculty members are very committed towards their social and academic responsibility. I believe that this endeavor augments the quality of a social and academic environment. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome you all to this Memorial Lecture Series 8 organized by the Department of History on Indian architecture in the colonial period. As you know that we had lost one of our talented young faculty, Dr. Himangsu Sarmah, 1.5 years ago, and this was a great loss for our college, for the society, and for the researchers. I pray to God that his departed soul may rest in heaven. Today we have among us a renowned historian, Professor Paramita Das. Thank you, Madam, for being with us despite your so many activities and so many busy schedules. I hope that your deliberation will be very precious for our participants and that they will be very benefited out of your deliberation. And really I am very sure I express my deep regards to the Honorable Speaker, Honorable Organizers, Honorable participants. This series, this lecture series is very much effective among our students and the participants, and I hope that this will be very successful one. This series will be very successful one, and I hope that our resource person, Dr. Paramita Das, she will enjoy the session also. Interaction session will be held, but I am sorry to say that I will not be able to continue this session. Due to my some other busy work, and later on, since this session will be recorded, I will enjoy the deliberation of our resource person, and later on, I will, if possible, I contact her about her deliberation, and with these few words, I want to conclude my welcome address. And once again, I sincerely welcome you all to this session. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir, for your kind and encouraging words like each time. Our principal, sir, has to leave because of his other commitments somewhere else. Thank you so much, sir, for giving us your valuable time. We would now proceed to the next activity of the session. I would request Dr. Nilofer Jasmine, Assistant Professor, Department of Anthropology, and the former IQAC coordinator of Morigao College, to speak a few words about Dr. Himangsu Sharma as we know him. Over to you, ma'am.
Okay, good afternoon, all. Thank you, Suman. Good afternoon, respected Principal Sir of Morigao College, Dr. Lilakanta Bodhakur, respected speaker of today's lecture of Dr. Himangsu Sarmah Memorial Lecture Series, Professor Paramita Das of Department of Anthropology of Guwahati University, and HOD of Department of History, Dr. Deepak Kalita, and other colleagues of the college, and Sarat Chaudhuri, and all other distinguished guests and participants. This lecture series is an humble and noble attempt of the Department of History of Morigao College to pay homage to Dr. Himangsu Sarma, who has lived for heavenly abode at a very early age. When today, at about 1 hour back, uh, Deepak called me and told me to speak a few lines on Dr. Himangsu Sharma as I knew him. Many thoughts came to my mind. What I will say, what I will speak when there are so many memories is attached with him. Still, uh, I want to say, actually, I knew Himangsu Sarma uh, before he has joined in this college. Before he is joined in this college, I met him actually in a short-term course which I did in Omyo Kumar Das Social Science Research Institute of Research Institute in Guwahati, and he was one of the participants in that training. And I met him that he was at the time a very young, just he passed out from the university, and young, sober, and very polite young guy I met. And he then told me that I will also join in the Morigao College. And after 1 year, he joined in the college, and I met him as my colleague. And yes, there was so many uh, memories are there uh, with him. Actually, Himangsu Sharma, he was a very dedicated person. He was very sober and very polite person, and he was, uh, uh, as everyone knows, and we know him. He was a person of very amicable in nature and very friendly and helpful to each other, not to his colleague or his fellow workers, but also to his students. Each and every student loved him, and he had many new ideas always for the betterment of the department, for the betterment of the college. And any works he took in his hand, and he was given any responsibility, he did very nicely and very dedicated. His dedication was we were very actually we loved that how he was so dedicated, how he did work at the time of when the NEC came in our college last time. He worked day and night, so he was such a sincere person. and he many new things. He had we in our with our department, with anthropology department, we started we for the first time we started interdisciplinary classes with history department, and it was his initiative. So there was so many such nice memory with him, and he was really very dedicated to his works and very sincere. So any small or big task did he did wholeheartedly. The most important is that he loved his college and his duties, and that is why maybe he was so dedicated to his works. So I knew him. I also knew him as a very good family man, a good host, because when I was in the hostel, or sometimes I had to stay in with Sarda and Himangshu in their home. I was guest to them. Actually, I was in a hostel, but I they always when I was there, they asked me to come to their home and to take dinner with them. And once I remembered it, he prepared the dinner. He asked Sarda and me to work, and he prepared the dinner. So he was such a person. So and he took different responsibilities of the college and worked for the KK Handy Open University Center for the college of the college, and many other works, and many other many in all aspects he did his uh, he gave his work uh, to the college. So he was working day at night, I had told, for to do his responsibilities, for his duties, and he never. We never saw. I think nobody saw him in anger or angry mood or irritating in even in a very adverse situation. So he was a completely dedicated person, and his untimely demise is a great loss not only to his family or to the college but also to the society. So with these few words, I am paying my homage, my tribute to Dr. Himangsu Sarma. The life of one we love is never lost. Its influence goes on through all the lives it ever touched. And uh, his lives also always touched us, and it will be with us. He will be always with us. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your warm and overwhelming words about Dr. Sharma. Uh, we have with us Dr. Shayadashi Chaudhary, who has been a constant support to neophytes like us in overcoming all the problems that we face time and again in the successful deliverance of each lecture. She has been the spine of the organizing committee, and I request ma'am to speak a few words. Over to you, ma'am.
Good evening, everyone. Hope I'm audible, Suman. Am I
Yes, ma'am, you
audible,
are.
Suman?
Yes, 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 yes.
So much. Well, I don't deserve that, but then again, thank you so much. Uh, Respected Principal Sir, Morigaon College, Dr. Hilakanto Borthakur Sir, in absentia. Respected former IQSC Coordinator, Dr. Nilofer Jasmine. Esteemed Speaker of today's session of the 8th lecture of Dr. Himangsu Sharma Memorial Lecture Series, Professor Paramita Das of the Department of History, Guwahati University. Dear organizers and dear participants and students, at the outset, I express my sincere gratitude to the Department of History and to the college administration for organizing this lecture series in fond memory of my husband, Dr. Himangsu Sharma. Here, I would like to thank Nilofer ma'am for remembering Himangshu with so much of love. Actually, when we think of him, I'm pretty sure we we do not have any bad memories associated with Himangshu. And this is how I think Himangshu has succeeded in living a successful life. There are no bad memories associated with him. A man is known by his deeds, and Himangshu has proved that. So he is not only an academician and a teacher, but uh, as Jasmine ma'am has said, he has discharged several responsibilities as an employee and also as a responsible citizen. He was a coordinator of KK Handiki State Open University, Morigaon College Study Center for a period of 10 years. He was the IUMS coordinator. He also acted as the unit secretary of Morigaon College Teachers Unit. He was the head of the Department of History. And as we all know, that he was very dedicated, a very dedicated member of the IQAC, Morigaon College. On top of that, he was the founder president of Ananya, an NGO, which which he conceived. It was his brainchild. Ananya was his brainchild, through which he reached out to the society and he was able to render human service to the masses, to the people at large. Fortunately, we were also part of the NGO. It is still there, and we were able to help the erosion-stricken people of the district by taking care of their you know, economic and academic needs. We raised funds to help those people. We also tried our level best to help their children in appearing for their public examinations by paying their fees, by buying books and other necessary educational equipments for them. Uh, Under his leadership, we also organized and we tried to empower women weavers by providing raw materials for weaving of gamusas. And also we arranged for the selling of the finished product. During the COVID stricken times of the of 2020s, when Himangshu was himself suffering from the undiagnosed fever, he nevertheless rendered his services to different hospitals, to different civil hospitals by purchasing sanitization items. He did not care for for what was happening to him, but then he was very bothered that things should not run out of stock. Well, one could go on and on when it comes to Himangshu, and this is and this actually proves that he has led a very successful life. Of course, um, when a person leaves us, how we remember him is very important. How a person is remembered when he's no more. Once again, I thank the Department of History, and I sincerely hope that this lecture series becomes a channel of dissemination of knowledge through the wonderful lectures that we have had so far and the one that we will have today. I also take this opportunity once again to thank our speaker today, Professor Paramita Das. Thank you so much, ma'am, for accepting our invitation and joining us. So it's over to you, Suman, and we are eagerly waiting forward for the lecture. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. We'll soon proceed to the introductory session of today's speaker and resource person. Professor Paramita Das is here with us today, and it is my utmost privilege to deliver the introductory note for one of my teachers who has enlightened me and about the subject history and has played a pivotal role in my academic life. Uh, Professor Paramita Das is currently working in the Department of History, Guwahati University, Assam, was completed her PhD and master's again from Guwahati University. She has many books, edited volumes, articles, and publications to her credit, such as History and Archaeology of Northeast India, 5th century to 1826 AD, with special reference to Guwahati, Heritage Northeast, a collection of articles on the Heritage of Northeast India, an edited volume, a project report titled Evolution of Assam, a historical perspective, etc. She also has numerous chapters on research-oriented books as well. Professor Das was selected by the Indian Council for Cultural Relations, New Delhi, as a visiting professor in the Indian Studies chair at the prestigious Muhammad VIII University, located at Rabat, capital of Morocco, for a period of 2 academic sessions. Professor Paramita Das was earlier nominated by the Union Ministry of Culture as an official delegate to the South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation, SARC, regional seminar on cultural dynamics in national harmony in South Asia at Peradeniya, Sri Lanka in May 2015. With such immense works and praiseworthy contributions in the field of historical research, we are indeed humbled to have ma'am as a speaker today. I would now request Professor Paramita Das to begin with the technical session on the topic, Indian Architecture in the Colonial Period, which is the 8th lecture of Dr. Himangsu Sharma Memorial Lecture Series. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Suman. I would like to, first of all, thank the Moregaon College History Department and IQSC and the principal and that is the family members of Himangsu Sharma for giving me this opportunity to deliver the 8th lecture in memory of Himangsu. And I think this was a very good idea because when we lost Himangsu in 2020, it came as quite a shock because he was so young. And I remember him as my colleague Mitadeka's scholar. And he was also very busy with ACTA also. I remember he contributed a lot to the Assam College Teachers Association. And he was very academically inclined and vocal and full of life. So it is difficult to imagine that today he's no longer with us. But I think academic lecture series is perhaps the best way to perpetuate his memory. So without much ado, I will start the lecture now. And I think you'll have to enable me to present because so I think you have to grant permission from the administration. I don't know. I'm just trying.
I guess you can straight away present, ma'am.
Okay. On her permission lage. Okay, I think देखी सा?
Hi, ma'am. देखी सा.
Okay. ठीक है सर. My voice is okay?
Yes, ma'am. It is okay.
ठीक है. Many of you may not be aware, but actually my specialization is ancient Indian history. But since Himangsu was from the modern stream of history specialization, so I thought I will just give an overview of Indian architecture in the colonial period. Now, this is indeed a large area to cover in one lecture, but I just want to give an overview. So because I presume there would be not only teachers by students, so initially we will start with certain basics. So when we talk about the colonial architecture in India, it refers to the products of European colonists on Indian soil. The advent of the Europeans in India, first as traders and later as political power, it was a direct result of the European Renaissance and also the rise of the Ottoman Turks or the Ottoman Empire. Now, as students of history and maybe some of the participants are not from history, so I'm giving this background. Now, in 1453, the fall of Constantinople resulted. The Ottomans had captured it. And this cut off the overland trade routes to the west, that is with Europe. That is, when we are talking about the west, we are meaning the countries to the west of India. And also with Central Asia, etc. So now European adventurers sought to find a sea route to India. And in 1492, the Italian traveler, that is Christopher Columbus, that is King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella of Spain. They saw him off, they funded him. He tried to find a route to India, but as we all know, he discovered the New World, that is the America. So he never reached India. But in 1498, the Portuguese traveler Vasco da Gama, coming through the Cape of Good Hope, he sailed through the Horn of Africa, and he arrived in Kozhikode or Calicut. And they established later the bases in Goa in 1510. Followed by the Portuguese, it was the Dutch who founded the first factory in Masulipatam in Andhra Pradesh, and later in Bengal and also Surat. But later the Dutch did not have much presence in India, and they concentrated their work mostly, you see, in the south, that is what today we call Southeast Asia and Indonesia and all that, the Spice Islands. Now in 1600, the English East India Company was established, and they obtained a farman to trade with India. And in 1612, at that time, India was under the Mughals. They established the first factory at Surat, and later as Madras, that is present-day Chennai, then in Bombay, which the British had actually received as the dowry of Katrina Braganza, the queen of Charles II of the Stuart dynasty. So it was part of the dowry, and so it came to the British hands. And later you find they founded the city of Calcutta, today called Kolkata. Now in Pondicherry and later at Mahe, that is Pondicherry, of course, is in Tamil Nadu, and later Mahe in the region of Karnataka, the French established the first factories. Now, last of all to come was actually the British. But what you find is in 1763, following, and that is the Treaty of Paris, etc., or Peace of Paris, and in India in 1761, like Battle of Vandewash and all that, the British remained as the only European political power in India, reducing the others to mere trading powers. And the gradual rise of the British from a trading company to the ruler of India was completed by 1857, when a great revolt broke out against them, but was suppressed. And they ruled from 1858, it was ruled by the British Crown, following Queen Victoria's proclamation, until we became independent in 47. Now, when we talk about colonial architecture, one major feature is it altered or changed the entire topography of the Indian cities. And initially, when we look at colonial architecture, the forerunners were the Portuguese. In the 17th century, they brought the Jesuits because, they were Roman Catholic, followers of Roman Catholicism. And they settled in Goa. And they had brought these Jesuit priests to consolidate Christianity. Now, Christianity had, of course, earlier come to India more than 2,000 years ago. But whatever churches were established then has not survived. But the topic today is basically Indian architectural development in the colonial period. So what you find is the earliest examples of colonial architecture, that is, or architecture of India in the colonial period, are the structures established by the Portuguese in Goa. Now, these were basically religious structures, the earliest structures. These were Roman Catholic churches, and they were modeled in the Mannerist and Baroque styles prevalent in the Iberian Peninsula. Iberian Peninsula means Spain and Portugal, okay? Now, Mannerism is a style of Italian architecture, which was a reaction against the classical perfection of high Renaissance art. Now, here when we're talking about classical, in the Indian context, many a times when we're talking about classical, we refer to Sanskrit literature, we refer to the Gupta period, etc. But in European history, when we are talking about the classical period, it basically refers to ancient Greece and Rome. And the ideas of that time. And many of these ideas were revived during the Renaissance and on a large scale. And as in ancient India or in that is early India or pre-colonial India, much of art, especially in the period prior to the establishment of the Delhi Sultanate, art was primarily known as the handmaid of religion. That is, religious art was what had survived in India. Now, similarly, in Europe also, the church and religion was responsible for producing great works of art. Like, the Renaissance painters like Leonardo, Raphael, Michelangelo, and others. Okay. Now, Mannerist works are characterized by exaggeration or alteration of proportions, of posture and expression. So they are a bit larger than life, and they are not very proportionate in style. So it hits you in the eye. And the Baroque is very ornate, sort of. It's a very theatrical version of the Renaissance architecture. Very dramatic contrast between light and color, and illusions are there, and many motifs are there. And what you find is how to describe Baroque is that now this is in Goa. This is the Basilica of Bom Jesus. Bom mane Kesua, mane Bom Jesus, mane baby Jesus, basically. Now, when those of you who have studied early architecture, you will find that the facade of the church actually resembles somewhat, not in style so much, but the flat surface of the thing, like the facade. It resembles like when we find the Chatya window motifs in rock architecture, say in Ajanta, Karle, Nasik, etc. But this is, of course, like imported from Portugal. And you have these buttresses because they're very, like, and these churches are very tall, high vaulted ceilings are there. And you can find these are what are called pilasters or decorative pillars. Here you can see from the cursor. So these are there. So a pilaster is basically a pillar which serves no architectural purpose. It does not hold up a building. Okay. It is just for decorative purposes, for effect. And you find all these decorations, and you find this pointed gable here like this, and tiny turrets sort of thing. So, and these buttresses are there to hold up the walls. So this is the Basilica of Bom Jesus, and this is the inside. So it is cruciform in shape, that is on plan. The ground plan is cruciform. It is shaped like a cross. And it has a 3-storied facade, as you saw. And the main entrance is flanked by 2 smaller entrances. So this is the main entrance, and these are the 2 smaller entrances. So this style you also find in the cathedrals in Europe, and actually even in the larger Chaitya halls. Chaitya halls also you find that there would be a nave and side aisles. Because I guess the necessity of the rituals of prayer, it determines what the hall shape should be like. So whether it was Christian or early Buddhist, it was quite similar actually. Even today, if you recall the Namghars of Ahom, you will find there are a row of pillars. So there will be a central nave, and the lower sides, it'll be divided into 3 by the row of pillars. So same thing you would see inside this. And this is the coffin, and this is a close-up. So it has mounted basalt. This basalt is a type of what you call rock, that is igneous rock, a casing, and the remaining part is exposed in laterite, including the buttresses. The buttresses are the supporting walls which we saw on the sides. And it is an elaborate late Renaissance structure fronted by a facade combining elements of Doric, Ionic, and Corinthian designs. Doric, Ionic, and Corinthian are different types of pillars which we find in different parts of Greece. Like, say, to do with Sparta, then the Doric pillars, they're less ornate. The Ionic are more sleek, etc. And the Corinthian are very flamboyant. So you find different types. So early Greek, that is classical architecture, also influenced late medieval, what you call European architecture, and especially in the Iberian Peninsula. And this was transferred to Indian soil. It contains the mortal remains of Saint Francis Xavier. So here he is. And this is his close-up. Okay. This is a relic. Like sort of, his body is here. And this is the coffin. It's kept well preserved. So here you can see cherubs and other things. see, Corinthian pillars and all, they have things very flowery and flamboyant, as I said. And it appears as if the cupids are holding up. And there's a lot of similarity, actually, to earliest Buddhist rock cut architecture, like, say, Udaygiri and Khandagiri, when we look. Udaygiri and Khandagiri also, of course, Jain is also there. But what you find is, in the rock cut caves of Udaygiri, Khandagiri, you find what is called bhar bahak, holding up the roof. As if they're holding up the roof, it is carved. That is rock cut. But this, of course, is structural. And these are called cherubs. And here, on all sides, these cherubs are there. Cherubs are actually small young boys with wings. And this is like Jesuit priest. And this you can see, the vaulted ceiling. Vaulted ceiling. So it is not exactly an arch. It is like this. And here the sculpture is there, calling the faithful to pray. This. So here you can get an idea about the dress, about the type, what you find inside. Okay. This is supposed to be a halo and a apron sort of bit. And this is like enlarged, this part. Now, this is another cathedral. This is much larger in size. It's in Goa and dedicated to Saint Catherine. It is known as the Say Cathedral. It is Asia's largest church built by the Portuguese in the 16th century. It has 14 altars. Altars means where people pray, like the place of worship. It has 8 chapels and 5 bells. Here you can see the bells. I will show you a side view. And it's a manifestation of the early Portuguese architecture in India. This, like the former one also, the facade is flat and there are 3 entrances you can see, and it is triple story. It is triple story. And now this is the side view. This is the side view. And there are lots of subsidiary chapels, as I said. Here, the chapels are there. And if you recall looking at pictures of early Buddhist viharas, there also you would find a central courtyard surrounded by cells where monks used to pray. But of course, that would be more or less rectangular in shape inside the mountain, and it would be rock cut. But this is a structural thing, and you have many chapels and all, and this is not rock cut. And behind the central nave, there are additional chambers like this and many chapels. So as you can see, it is very big. And these triangular things, these are called gable ends. So this. Now, initially, like this, there was another tower here. It has broken. It has broken. This is what has remained today. And unlike the British churches, which has only one spire, what you find, the Portuguese churches, then the French ones, they always have 2, generally speaking. This is inside the Say Cathedral. So these are like wood and covered with gilt. Gilt means golden, gold-plated, gold leaf. And these chandeliers and all, they were imported from Europe. These are not of Indian origin. So basically what they did, and someone would preach from the pulpit, etc. So there would be another story here. As I said, it is 3 stories, and here you can see inside what it looks like. So you can look into the pulpit, and here you can find the sculpture of Jesus. And these are the apostles and tales from the Bible. Now, another thing is in Goa, in the Margaon church. Okay, at present, Margaon is a small village community in Goa, and I had actually visited the Margaon church. But this photo I've taken from the internet because my photo cannot take the whole panorama. So it was built in 1565 over the ruins of a Hindu temple. And it was sacked in 1589 by the king of Bijapur. okay, ruler of Sultan of Bijapur, and it was again rebuilt in 1675. So here you can see the two towers are intact. Now, two towers were added, being still the model reserved for cathedrals. So although it is a church, it is only in the bigger cathedrals. A cathedral is actually a church on a larger scale, like more grand. Churches, that is, in every village you will find a church or something where Christian communities are there. Now, this innovation influenced the entire region, and the churches that had only one tower now had a second tower. Originally, like, see, you can see it is so big. There's a central courtyard inside. This is the entrance, etc. Now, what you find is that originally the churches were small in size and the cathedrals were big, and they had two towers. And the facade is the same. You can find one central entrance and two side ones, and this sort of flattish look. Now, this is inside. You find these paintings surrounded by apostles, baby Jesus, etc. Here, Jesus performing miracles, things like that. And you can see here the cherubs. Now, besides these religious architecture, the fortified settlements based on Renaissance central planning are seen in the major secular structures which the Portuguese introduced into India. And the civil structures, that is where the officers and etc. resided, they were built within fortified walls. Because you must remember, these were foreigners. They had come into India, they had conquered, they had killed local people, they had established, like Alfonso de Albuquerque, etc., etc. All this, you have studied in history, most of you. I'm presuming that the majority of the audience is from history anyway. It may be from others, but you must have a basic idea in school. Now, the spatial organization of the Goan house is usually made around the central courtyard. So here the Hindu and Mediterranean traditions coincide. So for security's sake, the courtyard is not outside, but it is inside. And on all four sides, there would be room, or on all three sides. Now, a high plinth raises the house from the ground, giving it an imposing look. And then you have a tall, high-pitched roof. It rests on a cornice. Cornice means a solid, supporting sajar nisna. But not exactly a saja, but it's more rounded. So formed by 2 to 4 rows of round traditional tiles. Now, the decorative modelings which surround doors and windows give these houses a great resemblance with those of southern Portugal. And the masonry details are very overscaled. That is very ornate, mannerist approach at us, like larger than life. So here you find. And I'm sure many of you are surprised that these type of houses we also see, not so ornate like this, but similar type you find in Assam also in the British period. So these are the balustrades. Okay, stone balustrades are there. These houses are there. So these eaves are there. And these decorations. Balcony is there. And this cornice is there. This is the cornice, and the roof rests on the cornice. And there is this eave or saja, which we call, so that the rain won't fall. Because you see, Goa is, during the monsoons and all, it rains quite a lot. So this is the Braganza house in Chandor, Goa. This is the inside of the house. Inside of the house. And you can see these chandeliers and how it is decorated inside. Quite stylish. And the decorated ceiling, etc. It is plastered and painted over. Some of it has peeled away because it is very old. And these ornate chandeliers, it must have been quite grand, and the stained glass windows reminiscent of, church and cathedral stained glass windows. Then casa or castle, this is Arajo Alvarez. This is also from Goa. Because in Goa, a lot of this has survived actually. So this type of moldings, with tiles, etc. These are the eaves which cover the windows. There's an arch over the windows, and these are decorative. Sometimes you have decorative tiles here. So this is the secular architecture which has remained from Portuguese times. And they can actually look like a little bit like here we don't have tiles so much, but we have CI sheet British, bungalows and houses. And the high plinth is there. It's not low. because waterlogging probably may be there. And in a humid climate, there might be snakes, etc. Now, this is the Figueredo house in Lotolim, Goa. Again, you can see it is on a high plinth. So there's an arch here, decoration. This is just for decoration purposes. And you can see these designs. And here, this is the cornice and the roof lies it over, and these are known as the eaves. Okay. So you climb up this and the veranda, and behind it is what we would call the sutal, or the courtyard, around which there would be rooms. Inner courtyard would be there. Now, interior, these are, this is pixelated a bit, I'm sorry. These are chandeliers imported from Belgium, because they are known for the crystal. That is, Belgian crystals are very famous. So obviously these belong to noblemen and high officials. Now, basically, as I said, beginning of Indian architecture consisted of the architecture of churches, cathedrals, and secular buildings built by the Portuguese. Now we shall come to the French and British architectural styles. Now, the French colonies in India were along the coastlines. Okay, Pondicherry, then Karikal and Yangon on the Coromandel coast, Mahe on the Malabar coast, and Chandanagar. Now it is called Chandanagar, but in the history when we studied, it would be called Chandranagar, Nagore, like that, just outside of what is now Kolkata. But as most of us know, by 1763, okay, they became dominant. The British became dominant, and the French retained only Pondicherry, located on the Bay of Bengal in Tamil Nadu. Now, the British colonial architecture can be found in the Presidency of Madras, one of the earliest buildings we find in Chennai, then in Bombay or Mumbai, and again in Kolkata, and of course at a later period in Delhi. Now, what were the characteristics? French colonial architecture, initially it was confined to residential quarters and forts in the maritime trade centers. In 1742, Joseph Francois Dupleix was appointed as the Governor General of French possessions in India. He established his headquarters at Chandanagar on the river Hooghly near Calcutta. It was laid out on a grid pattern and divided into the French and English quarters, okay, known as the Villa Blanche and Villa Nord. Villa Blanche means the white city, and Nord means the black city. So basically, this was, the white city was meant for the Europeans, and the black city for what they termed the natives, that is the Indians. Now, initially, what was at that time, the administrative office of the French, it is now known as it was known as the Dupleix Palace. That is, it was the palace of the office of the Governor General, and he used to reside there also. Now, the French also built churches similar to those found in France. But in Bengal, what they did, because Bengal, like Assam, it receives a lot of rainfall, so they patterned the houses on the local Bengali Chosala hut. And these were built on a high plinth as the region was prone to heavy rains and the grounds were very often damp. Now, they had a ground floor plus second story and had slanting roofs to drain off rainwater. They had shuttered windows. So, kathar shutters asile. Not like today you find iron shutters in the shops for safety. That time it was wooden shutters. And they used local materials like thatch. Mud and lime. So, mati or mud, earth was used as the plaster, and they whitewashed it with lime, chuna. Now, residential houses had arched entrances and the courtyards at the rear with gardens like traditional houses of Bengal. So this is Dupleix's house at Chandanagar, and here you can see the doors. Besides the ordinary doors, there's the shutters. Yata shutters are khirki. Okay. And this sort of thing, it was common, and there's a balcony, etc. on top, what we call the sat or the terrace. Okay, this is Lady Liberty with a flag, whatever. There's a cannon here also, you can see remnants. Just like Nobin Chandra Bodler Hall, we have cannons, etc. So here you can see one cannon, two cannons. But initially these were there for defensive purposes. But we're of course not concerned with that. So you find these grills are there. It was like to keep out outsiders basically. And these shutters are one of the features. And this is a French church at Chandanagar. But unlike the Portuguese church, this is an arched one. It is not like pointed like this triangle or no. But French churches also, like they have double towers, 2 towers. So you can see these are the speciality. These are arched, but rounded arch. And these are shuttered windows. Shutters, wooden shutters are one of the hallmarks of French architecture in India. And in France also. And I had also spent time in Morocco, as Suman had said. And there also you still find these wooden shutters are there. They're still there, the wooden shutters. Like the houses, the windows, etc. They do not generally have grill, iron grill. But the glass is there, and then there are the wooden shutters. Like this. Even more, I mean, later day periods also, this has become bad. You find like trees have grown, etc. This is abandoned now. This is in Chandanagar. It has overgrown. You can see a papaya tree here, whatever other things are here. These here you find gargoyles, like what you find in churches, etc. And these are the remains of some decorative Corinthian pillars. Here you can see. Then here. Top ornate decorated here, here, decorated. All these decorations are there. This is inside that house, like the same house. We are now coming inside. It is now a derelict house. And here you find tiles and paintings. Yet it gostos goji goise, but the shutters remains what was there. And this is part of the inner courtyard. And actually, many of the houses in Morocco also, this is there. There's the inner courtyard. And this is the remains of a Corinthian pillar. Ephale ita asile, ephale plaster to ulai goise. So mud and chuna was there. So you can see when at that time, it must have been really very beautiful. This is how the entrance was there. You get up like this, curving balustrades. Again, the shutters you see. Then like in Europe, and like if you go to Versailles or something, you will find these sculptures, etc., decorating the grounds. So they tried to recreate the life here. The type of houses they had, they tried. But the French were smart enough to use local materials also. This is now abandoned. This is an old house. You can see the eaves here, window eaves, these are there. Then the roof. You can see the remnants of the bricks, and the mud and chuna plaster has come out. Sun surki and all that, this has come out. The chuna and mud have come out because it was just mud and chuna plaster. And now these old rooms, some commercial business is going on here. But you can still see the remnants of the wooden shutters and the old grills and these designs. Now this is in a better state. This is in the French Quarter in Pondicherry. And if you go there, you will see lots of, it's very nice, small houses, whitewashed and all that, very nice. This is in Pondicherry, coming down south. Now this is window details of old French houses in Pondicherry. See, from the side, you can see as shutters are A to Anakatake, so that the rain doesn't come. You open the shutters and the shutters remain here. So the water doesn't come inside. It's like an overhanging. These are called eaves and there will be decoration. Just see the wooden decorations here. And look at these pillars. These are actually pilasters. These are just for decorative purposes. And someone has put grills, etc. And all these stucco work is also here. So at one time, they must have been so beautiful. And see, like they use local materials. So this is thatch. Uporot khair dise. This is in Pondicherry. As I said, they're very whitewashed, cute houses. Like French chateaus and all that. The style is like that. This is another one. Here you can see these tiles are there. Then the water will come like this. A to major tile or joining us. between two tiles. So the water would slide off. Of course, now this part is modern, but like what you find is these are old things, but they have retained the style and repaired and kept it in good order. Many have now become hotels. Now we come to because I've taken a very big subject, so I'm just giving an overview actually. Now the British, when they came, colonial architecture, they initially built forts in Chennai, Kolkata and Mumbai. These were enclaves far away from local people and towns and housed the military garrisons and also served as the center of governance. Now, it took time to build these forts. So Fort William in Kolkata, 1696 to 1702. Fort St. George in Chennai or Madras, what we call. And then again, Fort George in Mumbai. The smaller towns which did not have forts like Agra, they had cantonment areas where the troops stayed. And the government officials, today in Delhi also you'll find the remains of the civil lines. Like the French, the British also segregated themselves. Now, when we look at the British colonial architecture, this is just a big, broad division I'm doing. So first phase, okay, just a little like from the Regulating Act time till the thing under the rule of the East India Company. Then secondly, up to 1911, up to, when they were ruling, that is directly under the crown in Kolkata. Then third is in Delhi till independence under the British crown from Delhi. As you know, from 1911, whatever. Now, this is known as the White Town of Fort St. George in Chennai. It was the first fortress built by the British in India. Because of the color and all that, it was called the White Town. So on the Bay of Bengal on one side and surrounded by fishing villages. Because it is not the Chennai of today. Okay. It was long time ago, many hundreds of years ago. So it became the hub for trade activities because in 1644, there was still a trading company. And it was crucial in spreading English influence in the region. So very sort of modest, you can call modest and utilitarian. It was not very ornate like the French or the Baroque style like mannerisms and Baroque like the Portuguese. They had these arches and pilasters, but it was not too much of, lavish and ornate decorations. More functional in nature. Clean lines. Now, the Raj Bhavan is the official residence of the governor of West Bengal. It is located in Calcutta, obviously. Now, this was known as Government House, built in 1800, and was the headquarters of the British Empire in India. So as you can see, like, this is an old photograph, actually. It was very not easy to get the photos. So Otis Elevator Company, they installed the first elevator, what we call the lift, in India, okay, in 1892. So, so many more than a century ago, like there was a lift was installed here. So you can see the dome and you can see the big grounds, etc. here. Now, these are the churches. So unlike the Portuguese thing, what you find is these have single spires like English country churches. Now, this is St. George Church called Kolkata. And you have clean pillars. See, there's not much decoration here. And this from the front, if you look at it, actually, if you leave out this part, if you leave out the spire part, that is where the bell is and the spire is there, you can climb up here. There will be spiral staircase climbing up here. Belfry it is called, okay? Where the bell would be church bell, etc. So this actually, in certain time, it actually resembles what you call the Parthenon. The Greek Parthenon. It's just simple lines are there. And coincidentally, it also resembles, not this top part, just the bottom part and the thing. These pillars, etc. coming, clean pillars, not too much with sculptures, etc. These also you find, in Madhya Pradesh, in Sanchi temple number 16, which was one of the early Gupta temples. Very like clean Grecian lines. Ancient Grecian lines. So this is in Chennai and this is in Kolkata, and more or less they look the same type. So front you side and back side, there will be a rectangular thing, and this will be a bit slightly curved. So the nave of the church, like that. There will be 3 entrances or 1 entrance, or you can enter here like that. Now, basically in the first phase, what you find basically official buildings. It was only as the British population grew that they started building churches. Okay. Now, what you find, this is called European neoclassical. That is back to the classical, back to ancient Grecian styles. So these are structures built on a grand scale, simplicity of geometrical forms. It's not ornate, and Greek, particularly Doric. Okay, Doric is from Sparta, very Spartan and very less ornamentation, detailing dramatic columns and blank walls. And the British governor of Madras, that is Chennai, Lord Clive, he built the banquet hall in 1802 to commemorate the British victory over Tipu Sultan in the Fourth Anglo-Mysian War. Okay, it was it was designed by John Goldingham, and it is built like in the Parthenon style, actually, like a Greek temple or Grecian shrine. And there are 2 sphinxes at the grate, and facade is dominated by here. It's in 2 stories. See, the front has 2 stories. Now sphinx is not there. Agote asile. Okay, but this is now this light. So it is 2 stories, and like the Parthenon. But here these are like arched like that. It's very simple. You climb up the steps and then you go. So this type, you can Google pictures of the Parthenon, then you will get an idea. I mean, Parthenon, of course, around 6th century BCE, things like that, but whatever. So this is the banquet hall. So things are built on a grand scale. They're put into huge compounds, placed. Sort of a setting is there, and then there will be gardens. Now, after 1857, what you find, the Mughal emperor, as you know, Bahadur Shah Jafar, was established on the throne of Delhi. But after suppressing the rebellion, the East India Company was abolished, and India comes directly under the British crown. Now, Queen Victoria, she was called the Empress of India, Kaisari Hind. Now, they wanted to sort of build an image as the legitimate heirs of the imperial Mughals, like they are the successors now. So what they did is, they incorporated Indian architectural features into the neoclassical or the then current Gothic styles. So this is also known as Indo-Saracenic architecture or style. So you have bulbous domes, like onion domes, you know, like the Mughal onion domes. That's all. Then you have overhanging eaves or saja or scalloped arches. Then you have vaulted roofs, then dome chhatris. Pinnacles, that is, pointed like inside, and then towers and minarets. So minarets, etc., these are typical of Islamic architecture. And the chhatri are small pavilions that mark the corners and roof of the entrances of a major building. Then there were open pavilions, there were pierced arcades. So it was all on a huge scale. So here you can see like a castle, it is looking, as I said, on a grand scale. So 1857, as you know, 3 universities were established, Mumbai, Chennai, that is University of Bombay, Madras, and Kolkata. Okay, I mean, following Wood's dispatch and all that, 1857 and the downward filtration theory, they did not first build schools, they first built universities because they thought education would percolate down to the lower strata. So this is the facade. See, it resembles sort of as if a church and things like that. Very grand scale, like appearing like a castle. Just look at it. It looks like a Sleeping Beauty's castle or something. So these are corner turrets. This is inside. Then stained glass windows, then vaulted ceilings. These are vaulted ceilings like that. And this is a clock tower, and it was modeled on Big Ben in London. Now it is called the Rajabai Clock Tower. Now this, of course, those who have been to Mumbai, this must be very familiar. So it was originally called the Victoria Terminus in honor of Rani Victoria or Queen Victoria. Okay, Peninsular Railway. That is Southern Peninsular Railway, it was in Mumbai. Now it is called the Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj Terminus, and it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. So 1878, same year as the Treaty of Berlin, actually. But anyway, so it took 10 years to build. So just look at the grand way it is built. Like high voltage ceilings are there, high voltage ceilings, all the stories. Even like say if you go to Calcutta and you look at the Indian Museum, the ceilings are so high. So see, these are the bulbous domes. Then there will be small turrets here like a castle. I mean, these are just for decoration. See here. Okay. These turrets are there. Then these are bulbous domes. Here you can see. This is the floor plan. And the second floor is like this of the station. Now this is the Madras High Court. Just see, it might just be a Mughal structure and laid amidst a garden, everything. Okay. See, look at the top tower, then all these 4 towers in the end side, all these are chhatris. Okay. These are called chhatris. Now this is famous monument. This is Victoria Memorial in Kolkata. So here also front and then behind you find these chhatris are called. Okay, so this is taken from Islamic architecture. And this is not so much, not too bulbous like the onion domes, but still you have this. So like everything had to have a grand scale and grand setting. So this is inside. So you enter like this, then the open terraces are there, picture galleries are there, then sculpture gallery, then the Queen's Hall, Prince's Hall, Darbar Hall, where audience was given. Colonnade means pillars, etc. Then this open terrace is there, then there will be colonnade here. Okay. This is how you enter, etc. And it has huge vaulted ceilings. These are sculptures, etc. Like the idea of a maternal government. This is what that people accept the imperial government as sort of a maternal government looking after the children who are the subjects. This is Lord Curzon. This is, of course, a young Victoria, not the others we are used to when she was old and overweight. So you can see the flamboyance, with the cloak and everything. The tight trousers, boots, everything. So everything on a grand scale to overawe the people, so that they will not, they will accept the government. Now, from 1911, when the capital of India was shifted from Kolkata to what is now known as New Delhi. So Edward Lutyens, he designed the modern city away from the formal Mughal capital of Old Delhi. And he wanted Western architecture with an Oriental motive. So what you call is monumental classicism. So classical state like Greece, but huge structures, vast ceremonial avenues and open spaces, geometrical symmetry and a grand central axis, okay? And streets in the residential areas, there would be roundabouts. And residences were allotted in the civil lines according to official status. That is hierarchy. That is, it would depend what your position in office is. Okay? The houses would be like that allotted. You would be allotted, that is residential quarters according to your station in the office. So this is an old photograph of Delhi. Lutyens Delhi, that's why it is called. So you can see Ring Road, etc., whatever. And all this. See, very geometrically laid out, vast avenues, central secretariat here. Okay. This here today, like what today we call India Gate, this of course came later. Then this is the Rashtrapati Bhavan, which was the Viceregal Palace. So there also you find there's a vast, massive square with multiple courtyards. Open inner areas. Now the 2 wings, one was for the viceroy and his staff and other office bearers, etc., and the other was for guests. Now, but the whole thing was so big that Rajagopalacharya, who after independence, after Mountbatten, he becomes the Governor General of India. So it was the last Governor General, actually, Chakravarti Rajagopalacharya. He preferred to live in the smaller guest wing. And later presidents also, they did not. It was used just for like guests, etc., and for state receptions. And these are Central Secretariat, etc., in Delhi. So you can see the whole space, the idea of space, huge space. This is, see, laid out in Mughal style gardens, etc. And water bodies. Like, when the vista, the whole idea of a central vista, etc. That is when you see the Taj Mahal or something, like it's placed there with a setting. But it is less ornate. And this is Parliament. At that time, it was Governor General's Council used to meet there, so it was called the Council House. So we come to the end because I'm not gone into local styles and all that because it will be endless. Okay. So thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for this enlightening lecture that you just given, and the influences of Portuguese, French, British architectural designs, and that the country was dominated by four colonial powers at a point of time, and the affinity of architectural designs from the Greek pantheon to Islamic architecture on the Indian lands is indeed noteworthy to understand and know. Moving forward, it was extremely enlightening again for us to listen to you. And moving ahead to the next activity, we have responses from the participants. I would request all the participants here to have any form of questions or queries that they want to clarify with our respected resource person. May kindly do so.
If you can write the questions in the chat box, then it is easier.
That'll be easier. Yes, ma'am. Any questions, any queries, any information you need, it will be highly welcomed.
I think I gave a lecture for more than an hour. No? I think they must have lulled into sleep.
No, ma'am, it was very interesting otherwise to listen to you after such a long time, actually. It was only in classৰ সময়তে যে পঢ়িছিলো আৰু তাৰপিছত এতিয়াহে আজি আপোনাৰ মাতটো শুনি আছো। Any questions from any of the participants will be welcomed.
I think people are tired after a long day, no?
Ma'am, can you name a few colonial architecture of Assam? It's a question by Raj Ballav Nath. He is from the Department of History, Morega College.
So if you look at our old DC bungalow, then recently the SP's bungalow has been demolished by our authorities because they want to beautify the riverfront. I don't know. But like if you look at the structures and British colonial thing, that is the official bungalows which they built. So like the French, the British adapted themselves to the local topography. They adapted themselves, the architectural style, to the local topography, and they build what you call this inti garden areas and all. Many a times they build what is called sang bungalows. And even say in the oil town of Digboy, they built sang bungalows. Sang bungalows means houses on stilts. Okay, houses on stilts. And there would be sloping roofs and there would be CI sheets. It would not be tiled, it would be CI sheets. Mane ting thakibo uporot. Okay, and they would build eaves all around and it would be set within big compounds. And they modeled it actually on the British, what you call houses there, some of them. But they would use local materials. So what we today call the Assam type house, Batam thake, Ikora thake, those also they utilized. But unlike the British traditional houses, like say big nobles and all who lived in, I mean, if you read British novels, you can get an idea of the architecture. So they're the servant quarters, what we would call. Okay, because, big nobles and all, they had a retinue of servants led by the butler and other things, and the housemaid, and the kitchen maid and chambermaid and other things. Chambermaid mane jibilake chamber pot safa kore. bathroom running water nasile নহয়. I mean, there was not the service latrine. Okay, chamber pot safa kore, chamber maid বুলি কয়, মানে bedroom bedroomত কাম চাম কৰে, তাৰপিছত ধৰি লও বাহিৰৰ maid set থাকে. They had a lot of retinue of servants. So in the upper attic areas of British houses, they would be staying. But in Assam, they did not do this. In Assam, they did not do this. What they did is they built the servant quarters away from the bungalow. অকমান মানে compound বিলাক বহুত ডাঙৰ আছিলে, and they would build a servant line. Okay, servant line বুলিয়ে কৈছিলে. Even in the tea gardens, the what they would call the lines, that is the tea garden laborers would live away from out of sight of what will be called the sahibs. Now, of course, it will be the Kala Sahibs. At that time, it would be the white Sahibs. But they would live far away. So they would be called the servant lines. They would be called the labor lines. And what you find in the houses, like the kitchen would be very far away. The kitchen would be very far away, say in places like the oil town of Digboy, where I grew up actually. These are British bungalows. Okay. So the sitting room, the dining room, and there would be chimneys. Because at that time it was cold. Itahi man goram due to global warming. So, and there would be chimneys would be inside, and from the and the bedrooms were on the top floor, on the second floor. There would be big verandas, and the bedrooms could be accessed from the verandas or from within. They would be connected. There would be attached bathrooms there, of course. There would be provision for hot and cold water. And what you find is earlier there were iron stoves in the kitchen. Later now they have piped gas, but earlier there was, so there would be coal fires, you know. That time we did not, people did not know the importance of not using fossil fuels and polluting the atmosphere. So coal was the major source used in factories, used for household, whatever, for cooking, everything. Or wood, firewood would be there. So the centrally built chimneys would be there. So the central room, say, there would be 3 bedrooms, say, in upstairs. And then in the central room, the chimney would be there. It will be very warm. So the top floor would be made of wood. They would use local things. Ground floor would not be made of wood. But in the Sang bungalows, there would be houses on stilts, and the servant quarters would be below ground. And the top floor would be for the family. And the kitchen would be quite away. And there would be a pantry also. You know, like where the food would be prepared and all that and brought to the pantry, and there would be a larder. So they tried to replicate what was there in England and, you know, adjust it or adapt it to the conditions in Assam. And what you find is, even in the tea gardens, what would be called the baburchi khana or the kitchen, it would be far away from the house, from the main house. So like they would live like mini lords actually. So the family space would be quite away from the help. What today we call the help. At that time they would call the servants. Okay. They would call not the helpers, they would call them the servants. It would be quite far away. This was their scene. And in the housing, many, especially in the tea garden areas, they would bring what today we call the Assam type house. See, if you have seen the, what you call DC bungalow in Guwahati, or the circuit houses where the British officers used to stay. So these are the remnants of the British architecture, which still remain. If you go to Haflong, and the location would be very important, you know, it would be on an elevated space. In Guwahati also, if you notice, all the official bungalows on the elevated space, slightly, so there would be no flooding there, because Assam was prone to floods. So the manager's bungalow, etc., also would be on high ground in the tea gardens. Because see, in Assam mainly, the British, they stayed in the tea gardens. Then the administrative headquarters were there. Say Tezpur, Guwahati, like that. Okay, Tezpur, Guwahati, Dhubri. So they would select the best places, which would give you a view of the surrounding countryside or a view of the river. Okay, space location was very important. And in Guwahati also, if you look at the remnants of this building, they built churches also. Amar etia Cotton College or ulta pine ase church. Okay, church is there. This is old church, one of the oldest churches in Guwahati city. So you have these. So what you find is, and then in the tea gardens, and then in the tea gardens, the houses are there. Then in the oil towns, like Digboy, they had, first oil town of Assam, or actually India only. I mean, oil was first discovered there. Further, so they built these houses, and they built it on a large scale, and according to the topography and the climate, and the ceilings were double ceilings. So operar ceiling to jenaka amar Assam type ghorot ting aru kathor frame thake, but at a false ceiling thake ghor to bhitorot. There would be a false ceiling, not made of asbestos, but enuka nohoy, not like the old Assam, but in the tea gardens they would use gani bags. Bosta kapur use kore tat sun khani diye. Sunor eta layer khani diye for the ceilings in the tea gardens. But in the oil towns and all, you made a false ceiling of plaster. So like, there would be a gap, and then even the upstairs would not be so hot. It would not be so hot. And there would be adequate ventilation and all that. In Duliajan, the case was different, but like that was built very horribly, the houses there, and was horribly hot houses in the oil town of Duliajan. But the house which the British built, they were very cool to stay in. Because those was the places I grew up in, old British bungalows. So like, it was like, it would always be on a place where there would be no waterlogging. The selection of the site was very important, the old offices and all. And then what you see, the dak bungalows, where the people would travel and all these. Now the old, so these are the remnants of British colonial architecture in Assam. If you go again to Majuli in the Auniati Khotra, this is an old, due to a museum korit hoise. That is also a colonial style British building. So you see that, and they have like gable ends, upor triangle thakibo. Then they have eaves, enuka kathor heri thakibo. Some old buildings also have shutters, but not all. And it would be built very scientifically. They would be eaves or saja made of CI sheets only over the windows and all that, or made of concrete over the windows, so that borokhon dile mane khirki khon khuli tholo pani nukhumai roomor bhitorot. So very scientifically constructed. And in Assam, most of the old British buildings, they still have survived all over the place, the colonial architecture in Assam. Basically, church bilak etiao ase, aru circuit house bilak ase. Saflong, if you go, you can see the old circuit house. Then again, in Lokhimpur also, Purana circuit house too ase. Notun too, of course, is modern structure. So they have survived in the form of the circuit houses, in the form of the dak bungalows, things like that. I hope that answers your question.
There's another question that has come from Angshuman Kakoti. Ma'am, if you have any knowledge of... Okay. I think I just...
Oh, no, I'm very sorry.
About
I don't know anything
house. Can you tell something?
Rajasthani ghor kotha eku najano.
Veranda-like structure in the middle of the house. Okay.
Actually, it was an Indian custom. Tamane ghorar bhitor ekhon sutal thake, that there would be an inner courtyard. Even old Assam type houses have an inner courtyard. Manu ta bohe sohe ranhe sanhe, because security kotha nasile, bahut manu asile, it would be a joint family, na. Yes. There would be lots of doors into the inner courtyard. Manhe asar kori tat hukai, kiba kore, golpo mare. Na.
South India also there is an influence of it.
Yeah, inner courtyard is very typical all over India actually.
All over India actually, yes.
Yeah, etia security karone he manhe sab gute mane bon kori grill kori dise.
Right. Thank you, Angshuman, for your question, though. We will now proceed to the next activity. We have almost reached to the end of today's wonderful webinar. We have the last activity of the day, but not the least, of course, the vote of thanks to be delivered by Mr. Deepak Kolita. He is the HOD of the Department of History, Morigao College. I request, sir, to deliver the vote of thanks. Over to you.
Am I audible? Okay. Thank you, Suman,
Yes, sir, you are.
for giving me the opportunity to deliver the vote of thanks. Respected Principal Morgaon College, Dr. Lilakanta Bhattakur, sir. Respected resource person and my teacher, Professor Paramita Das, uh, Guwahati University. Respected teachers of Morgaon College. Respected teacher, Dr. Nilufar Jasmine, Department of Anthropology, Morgaon College, and participants, student friends. Good evening and namaskar. Good evening, one and all gathered here on this wonderful evening. First of all, I would like to thank our resource person and my teacher, Professor Paramita Das, for her lecture. Uh, Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation and giving a very nice presentation. Thank you, ma'am. I would like to extend my gratitude to respected patron, Professor Zogen Chandra Kolita, although he was absent and unable to join this session, uh, for encouraging and organizing this event. Thank you, sir. Thank you, our principal, sir. I would like to give thank to our principal, sir, Dr. Lilakanto Bhattakur, for his constant support. Thank you, sir. I would like to extend my gratitude to our former IQC coordinator, Dr. Nilufar Jasmine, her uh, for her lecture and uh, express her ways how he met Himangsu Sharma and who was Himangsu Sharma. So thank you, ma'am. Next, I would like to thank our members of Dr. Himangsu Sharma Memorial Lecture Series. I would like to thank our technical person, Mr. Bulbul Das, Assistant Professor, Department of Computer Application, and Jointo Kumar Das, Assistant Professor, Department of Geography, uh, Dr. Rituras Das, Assistant Professor, Department of Chemistry, and Mr. Rajiv Malu, Assistant Professor, Department of Geography. I would like to thank, at last but not the least, I thank my departmental colleague, Suman Das, Rajballabh Nath, and Nikhil Kumar Deka for their support. And I would like to thank all the teachers, research scholars, participants, and my student friends gathered here. Thank you all. Over to you, Suman.
Thank you so much, sir, for your vote of thanks. We have Ritu Thausen, ma'am, who is a professor in the Department of History, Cotton University, who has actually texted here. Thank you so much, ma'am, for your patient hearing. We have seen that you have been here throughout the lecture. Rakhi Patwari ma'am is also responding. Thank you so much for your kind responses. We have the feedback link attached to the messages sent by Bulbul Das, who is our technical assistant and the assistant professor of the Department of Computer Applications, as said by Deepak Kolita, sir. I request all the participants who are left here to kindly fill up the feedback form for us to know how the deliberations went, and so that we can be encouraged for another lecture. Thank you so much, everyone who have been here and who have been patiently hearing. And it was a very interesting lecture that we have again successfully come to an end of, with another promise of meeting again in the next month with another lecture, and with continuing this deliberations and endeavor of continuing the Himangsu Sharma Memorial Lecture Series till 4 more lectures to go. I thank each one of you for your patient hearing. Thank you so much once again, ma'am, for delivering and giving us your time for listening, for presenting your lecture here. We will meet again, and with that hope, we'll end here for today's session. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.